Charm is not a genetic lottery ticket. It is not a grin perfected in front of the mirror or a wardrobe curated by an influencer. Charm is a feeling you give other people about themselves, and that feeling is created by choices you control every single day. We start with a scene. Picture a networking reception with the usual ingredients: clinking glasses, polite laughter, restless glances toward the exit. You scan the room and notice two clusters of conversation. In the first, a tall man gestures grandly while describing his latest project. Heads nod, eyebrows rise, but bodies lean slightly away. In the second, a soft-spoken woman listens more than she speaks. She asks short questions, tilts her head, repeats a phrase someone else just used, as if offering it back as a gift. Around her, shoulders relax, eyes brighten, people edge closer. 10 minutes later, the tall man has delivered a monologue no one recalls. The woman has gathered 3 invitations to coffee and a genuine offer of collaboration. What happened? The woman understood a principle Dale Carnegie made famous nearly a century ago. People are interested in those who are interested in them. Real charm is not projected outward like a spotlight. It is reflected back like a mirror. When you make someone feel heard, valued, and understood, you become unforgettable not because of what shines from you, but because of what is illuminated within them. Let us dismantle a myth. Many believe charm is a performance, a rehearsed set of gestures, perfectly timed anecdotes, strategic flattery. That is showmanship, not charm. Showmanship offers momentary entertainment. Charm offers enduring connection. Showmanship leaves a memory of the performer. Charm leaves a memory of how you felt in the performer's presence. So, how do we build this quieter, deeper form of allure? Carnegie's writings point to 3 foundational moves, each astonishingly simple, each easy to underestimate, each powerful enough to transform every room you enter. First, give people your eyes. In an era where screens steal attention before we even notice, full eye contact is rare and radiant. When you lock eyes softly, not invasively, you deliver a silent sentence. I am with you and nowhere else. That sentence feels like warmth in a cold hallway. It slows the frantic pulse of modern life long enough for trust to slip inside. It asks nothing but offers everything. Eye contact does not require charisma. It requires willingness to be present. Second, ask sincere questions. Not resume questions, not small talk placeholders, but open doors into real territory. What part of your work thrills you lately? What decision are you proud you made this month? These questions bypass autopilot answers and summon authentic stories. Authentic stories create authentic bonds. They reveal passions, struggles, hopes materials from which lasting rapport is built. Most people walk through their day repeating the same predictable answer. A surprising question jolts them awake and invites them to share something alive. The speaker feels seen. The listener becomes memorable. Third, echo value. When the other person finishes speaking, reflect what you heard in your own words, highlighting the strength you noticed. Your dedication to mentoring junior staff really shows. You have a gift for translating technical ideas into pictures. Echoing does 2 things simultaneously. It proves you were listening, and it elevates the speaker's self-perception. That elevation is magnetic. People gravitate toward anyone who consistently reminds them of their own potential. Combine these 3 moves: eye contact, sincere inquiry, value echo, and you create what psychologists call a peak end rule. A moment near the peak of a conversation that defines how the entire interaction is remembered. It takes no more than 30 seconds, costs nothing, and yet leaves an imprint stronger than expensive gifts or rehearsed compliments. Charm also depends on timing. The most compelling person is not always the fastest to speak. Often, they are the slowest to judge. Carnegie advised suspending criticism and complaint because negative judgment blocks understanding. When someone feels the safety of non-judgmental attention, they risk showing their true self. That risk, honored by your respect, becomes rapport. Resist the reflex to contradict, to correct, to top the anecdote with your own. Instead, linger in their perspective. You will learn. They will glow. Everyone wins. Now, notice what is missing from this formula. Bragging, boasting, name-dropping, volume. None of these create charm. Most erode it. Charm cannot coexist with self-absorption. The paradox of charm is that the less you make it about you, the more people want to be around you. When others leave your presence thinking about themselves in a brighter light, they associate that light with you. They seek to feel it again. Let us test the principle on a difficult scenario. Meeting someone who intimidates you, a senior executive, a thought leader, a future investor. Anxiety tempts performance. You rehearse lines, quote statistics, polish your achievements. Yet performance traps you in self-focus, which blocks authentic connection. Instead, deploy the charm triad. Meet their eyes with calm respect. Ask a question that invites them to discuss something meaningful. What's a lesson you're excited to teach emerging leaders right now? Listen without mentally drafting your response. When they answer, echo the value you hear. I can see how your emphasis on curiosity shapes the culture you lead. That echo lands like a handshake of minds. You have honored their experience and proved your attention a far more persuasive introduction than reciting your qualifications. Another common hurdle is shyness. Many assume charm belongs exclusively to extroverts. Reality: charm often lives comfortably in quiet personalities, because quietude pairs naturally with listening. If you are shy, you already possess half the recipe. You are less likely to dominate airtime. Your next step is to convert internal observation into external appreciation. Speak the small positive thoughts you normally keep inside. I like how you framed that challenge. It helped me understand. These micro-expressions of respect add up quickly, and because they are unexpected from someone reserved, they carry extra weight. Carnegie also reminds us that physical gestures speak louder than words. A genuine smile lowers defenses faster than an eloquent monologue. A nod during someone's explanation signals alliance. Leaning in slightly communicates eagerness. None of these require artifice if sincerity powers them. Sincerity is visible, so is pretense. The body tells on the mind. We must acknowledge the role of humility. Charm dies the second arrogance enters. Arrogance demands attention. Humility attracts it. A humble person stays curious. Curiosity is the engine of charming behavior, because curiosity directs listening, and listening creates connection. Ask yourself before every interaction, am I here to impress or to learn? The latter path leads to charm. Finally, remember frequency. One dazzling encounter cannot compensate for weeks of indifference. Charm's true strength is cumulative. Make small, intentional gestures across time names remembered, messages followed up, wins celebrated. These form a constellation in someone's memory, and you become the sky that holds it. You might wonder, will this effort feel tedious? Only if you approach it as manipulation. View it instead as discovery. Each person is a universe of stories, insights, and unspoken dreams. Your small actions are telescopes. With them, you glimpse new constellations mapping not the stars, but the hearts around you. Irresistible charm, then, is simply consistent, sincere curiosity plus measured generosity of attention. Simpler than we think, yet rarer than it should be. In the next section, we will dive deeper into practical habits daily, weekly, and monthly rituals that embed these principles into muscle memory, making charm less an act and more a reflex. Charming people aren't born. They're forged in small decisions made repeatedly until those decisions become habits. While the first part of this journey focused on foundational principles presence, curiosity, humility, this section shifts to a practical level. How do we integrate those behaviors into our daily life so deeply that charm becomes a reflex, not a performance? Dale Carnegie often emphasized this truth. It's not what we know that changes people. It's what we consistently do. Transformation, especially interpersonal, is always behavior-led. So instead of thinking of charm as something you turn on at events or in meetings, consider designing your entire lifestyle to be fertile ground for it to grow naturally. Here's how. 1. The daily ritual. 3 charm anchors before noon. Start each day with 3 intentional interpersonal gestures. These become your daily charm anchors. You can do them with family, colleagues, even strangers in line at a coffee shop. Complement something specific and unexpected. Your idea yesterday about using humor in presentations stayed with me. It was smart and fresh. Ask one emotionally intelligent question. What's something you're looking forward to today? Express gratitude with precision. Thanks for how you handled that meeting. You kept things moving without making anyone feel rushed. These actions don't take time. They take intention. They're frictionless to perform and yet powerful in impact. Over time, you'll notice people begin to open more quickly around you. Their body language shifts. Your presence begins to carry a reputation. Carnegie taught that a person's name is to them the sweetest sound in any language. So one bonus habit. Use people's names more deliberately. Not in excess, but enough to make them feel seen. That tiny detail builds relational warmth like few things can. 2. Weekly practice. The social feedback loop. Once a week, take 10 minutes to reflect on your recent interactions. This reflection doesn't need to be formal. Simply ask yourself, who did I connect with most deeply this week, and why? What behaviors seem to spark positive reaction? Where did I miss a moment to engage more intentionally? This practice builds what performance experts call a feedback loop. You begin to connect actions with outcomes. You start noticing invisible patterns, like which compliments feel most natural, or which body language you default to when nervous. Charm, then, becomes not just natural, it becomes intelligent. To reinforce this loop, once a week, send a note text, voice memo, or email to someone you spoke with, referencing something specific from your conversation. I've been thinking about what you said about storytelling and leadership. It's given me a new lens for framing my project updates. That kind of message elevates you in the recipient's memory. They'll replay the interaction in their mind and assign more value to it retroactively. You're not just charming in the moment, you're charming in the echo. 3. Monthly calibration. Your personal charm audit. Once a month, audit your environment and ask, is it helping or hindering my ability to be charming? For example, are the people I spend time with reinforcing presence and kindness or rewarding sarcasm and bravado? Is my schedule so crammed that I'm always rushing, unable to pause and ask sincere questions? Is my digital life, notifications, news consumption, doom scrolling, draining the mental space I need to be curious about others? If charm is rooted in presence and generosity, then anything that erodes those two must be reviewed. Cut what steals your ability to care. Protect what fuels your ability to notice. Carnegie reminded us that fatigue often leads to irritability, and irritability kills connection. So, don't just protect time, protect energy. Sometimes the most charming decision is going to bed earlier, so tomorrow, your eyes can shine when you greet your colleagues. 4. Train your attention like a muscle. At the heart of charm is attention not just listening, but noticing. You can train this like a muscle. Try these micro drills in everyday life. At lunch, try to remember the eye color of every person you speak to. At meetings, silently predict who's going to speak next and what emotional state they're in. On a walk, pick a stranger and mentally note 3 nonverbal signals they're giving off. This kind of observation, done without judgment, rewires your brain to prioritize human detail. The more fluent you become in noticing, the more naturally you'll spot moments to give praise, ask questions, or express empathy. 5. Build charm environments. Just as plants thrive in greenhouses, people thrive in spaces where connection is designed into the architecture. Create charm environments around you, spaces that encourage warm interaction. If you lead a team, consider starting meetings with a human question before the agenda. What's something that made you laugh this week? Is a far better opener than any updates. If you host gatherings, curate the room not just with who is invited, but how they're connected. Pair introverts with expressive listeners. Give people tiny prompts on the invitation. Bring a story about a lesson you learned the hard way. These conditions remove social friction and make warmth the default mode. Charm often flourishes not through effort, but through structure. Design your life like a garden, not a stage. 6. The 2-minute influence builder. Every day, look for a moment where you can validate someone's invisible labor. This could be noticing a shy colleague who always books the meeting room in advance, thanking a parent for managing the family logistics no one else sees, messaging a classmate who always asks good questions in discussion. These moments don't take more than 2 minutes, but over time, they establish you as the person who sees what others overlook. That reputation alone makes people feel magnetically drawn to you, not because you flatter, but because you dignify. 7. Watch the warm frame you broadcast. Every person emits an emotional frame in conversation. Some people radiate judgment or anxiety, others radiate warmth and acceptance. That's the warm, Framian inner posture that tells others, you're safe here. I see the best in you first. To cultivate this frame, use Carnegie's advice. Assume the best motives first. If someone is late, assume they were trying. If someone sounds curt, assume they're distracted, not rude. This generous assumption shifts your energy, which shifts theirs. So one bonus habit. Use people's names more deliberately. Not in excess, but enough to make them feel seen. That tiny detail builds relational warmth like few things can. 2. Weekly practice. The social feedback loop. Once a week, take 10 minutes to reflect on your recent interactions. This reflection doesn't need to be formal. Simply ask yourself, who did I connect with most deeply this week, and why? What behaviors seem to spark positive reaction? Where did I miss a moment to engage more intentionally? This practice builds what performance experts call a feedback loop. You begin to connect actions with outcomes. You start noticing invisible patterns, like which compliments feel most natural, or which body language you default to when nervous. Charm, then, becomes not just natural, it becomes intelligent. To reinforce this loop, once a week, send a note text, voice memo, or email to someone you spoke with, referencing something specific from your conversation. I've been thinking about what you said about storytelling and leadership. It's given me a new lens for framing my project updates. That kind of message elevates you in the recipient's memory. They'll replay the interaction in their mind and assign more value to it retroactively. You're not just charming in the moment, you're charming in the echo. 3. Monthly calibration, your personal charm audit. Once a month, audit your environment and ask, is it helping or hindering my ability to be charming? For example, are the people I spend time with reinforcing presence and kindness or rewarding sarcasm and bravado? Is my schedule so crammed that I'm always rushing, unable to pause and ask sincere questions? Is my digital life, notifications, news consumption, doom scrolling, draining the mental space I need to be curious about others? If charm is rooted in presence and generosity, then anything that erodes those two must be reviewed. Cut what steals your ability to care. Protect what fuels your ability to notice. Carnegie reminded us that fatigue often leads to irritability, and irritability kills connection. So, don't just protect time, protect energy. Sometimes the most charming decision is going to bed earlier, so tomorrow, your eyes can shine when you greet your colleagues. 4. Train your attention like a muscle. At the heart of charm is attention not just listening, but noticing. You can train this like a muscle. Try these micro drills in everyday life. At lunch, try to remember the eye color of every person you speak to. At meetings, silently predict who's going to speak next and what emotional state they're in. On a walk, pick a stranger and mentally note 3 nonverbal signals they're giving off. This kind of observation, done without judgment, rewires your brain to prioritize human detail. The more fluent you become in noticing, the more naturally you'll spot moments to give praise, ask questions, or express empathy. 5. Build charm environments. Just as plants thrive in greenhouses, people thrive in spaces where connection is designed into the architecture. Create charm environments around you, spaces that encourage warm interaction. If you lead a team, consider starting meetings with a human question before the agenda. What's something that made you laugh this week? Is a far better opener than any updates. If you host gatherings, curate the room not just with who is invited, but how they're connected. Pair introverts with expressive listeners. Give people tiny prompts on the invitation. Bring a story about a lesson you learned the hard way. These conditions remove social friction and make warmth the default mode. Charm often flourishes, not through effort, but through structure. Design your life like a garden, not a stage. 6. The 2-minute influence builder. Every day, look for a moment where you can validate someone's invisible labor. This could be noticing a shy colleague who always books the meeting room in advance, thanking a parent for managing the family logistics no one else sees, messaging a classmate who always asks good questions in discussion. These moments don't take more than 2 minutes, but over time, they establish you as the person who sees what others overlook. That reputation alone makes people feel magnetically drawn to you, not because you flatter, but because you dignify. 7. Watch the warm frame you broadcast. Every person emits an emotional frame in conversation. Some people radiate judgment or anxiety, others radiate warmth and acceptance. That's the warm, Framian inner posture that tells others, you're safe here. I see the best in you first. To cultivate this frame, use Carnegie's advice. Assume the best motives first. If someone is late, assume they were trying. If someone sounds curt, assume they're distracted, not rude. This generous assumption shifts your energy, which shifts theirs. Start small. Today, compliment someone on something they worked hard on, not just their looks. Ask a question and really listen to the answer without preparing your reply. Notice the person who usually gets overlooked and bring them into the circle. These moments might seem minor, but collectively, they form the gravity of charm. Not loud, not showy, but deeply felt. Because the people we remember most fondly aren't the ones who dazzled us. They're the ones who understood us, who made us feel known. And here's the beautiful twist. The more you help others feel seen, the more they'll be drawn to see you, not for who you pretend to be, but for who you actually are. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling lighter, almost as if someone poured energy into you without saying a word about themselves? That's not coincidence, that's enduring charm. The kind that doesn't just win a moment, but builds a memory. Dale Carnegie believed that charm isn't a performance, it's a lifestyle. A way of moving through the world where people feel better simply because you showed up. And not better in an envious way, but in an inspired way. As if you reminded them they matter. But how do you create that kind of impact without burning out? Without faking it? That's the secret most people miss. Because true charm doesn't come from pretending to be someone else. It comes from becoming more of who you already are when fear and ego aren't in the way. Carnegie taught that the biggest barriers to being likable are usually inside us. Defensiveness, self-centeredness, insecurity. When we're constantly worried about how we're perceived, we forget to perceive others. When we're obsessed with being liked, we become less likable. Here's where the shift happens. Charming people don't chase approval. They give affirmation. They're not in the room thinking, do they like me? They're thinking, how can I make them feel appreciated? It's not about proving value. It's about recognizing it in others. This approach transforms every interaction. Let's say you walk into a networking event. Most people are stiff, rehearsed, guarded. But you walk in not to impress, but to engage. Instead of telling people about your credentials, you ask, what excites you about what you do? Instead of competing, you connect. And people will remember that, because you broke the pattern. You offered ease in a place filled with performance. That's magnetic. Another critical trait Carnegie emphasized is consistency. Charm isn't about grand gestures, it's about repeated moments of trustworthiness. The friend who checks in, the colleague who follows through, the neighbor who remembers your child's name. These tiny consistencies build emotional equity, and people gravitate toward those who feel dependable. You don't need to dazzle to be desired. You just need to be reliable in a world full of noise. And when mistakes happen, as they always do, Carnegie's advice rings truer than ever. When you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Nothing destroys charm faster than defensiveness. And nothing restores it faster than humility. So if you want to be someone people want to be around, don't hide your flaw-sown them. People trust those who are honest about their humanity, because we all know perfect doesn't exist. But sincere, that's rare, and that's powerful. This doesn't mean you become a doormat, it means you become someone who chooses influence over ego, someone who chooses presence over perfection. The final piece of sustainable charm is often overlooked, self-renewal. You can't pour into others when you're empty. So truly, magnetic people make space to refuel. They read, they reflect, they surround themselves with voices that lift them. They don't chase every trend or drama. They protect their peace, and that inner calm becomes their outer glow. When someone carries peace, others feel safe, and safety is the foundation of connection. Remember this, you don't have to be the loudest, the smartest, the best looking. You just have to be the most genuinely kind, the most curious, the most consistent. Carnegie's wisdom is timeless because it shifts the spotlight from self to service. And in that shift, you become unforgettable. Not by what you say, but by how you make people feel when you say it. So ask yourself today, who can I make feel seen? Who can I encourage without needing anything in return? Who can I listen to without interrupting, without fixing, just being fully there? Do that. Do it often, and watch your presence become your power. Most people think charisma is a performance, a heightened version of themselves. They turn on like a spotlight. But real charm isn't something you switch on and off. It's something you carry with you. It's part of who you are when no one's watching. Dale Carnegie didn't believe in artificial personas. He believed in developing authenticity so consistently that it becomes effortless, so magnetic that people lean in without even knowing why, so rooted in kindness and curiosity that it disarms even the coldest hearts. Let's make something clear. You don't need to be extroverted to be charismatic. In fact, some of the most compelling people are the quietest in the room. Why? Because they're not trying to dominate the space. They're creating space for others to feel heard, valued, understood. Carnegie once wrote, "Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise." That's not about flattery. That's about impact. Because in a world starving for recognition, the person who sees people stands out. And when you become that person, when you intentionally make people feel worthy, without agenda, your influence expands far beyond a single room. Your reputation starts traveling faster than you do. Not because you're loud, but because you're rare. Here's how you make charm a lasting part of your identity. Step 1. Choose curiosity over control. Most people walk into conversations trying to control how they're perceived. But magnetic people are more interested in what they can discover than in what they can prove. They listen not to respond, but to understand. They ask not to impress, but to engage. Curiosity is disarming. It says, I value you. And when someone feels valued, they open up. Step 2. Assume positive intent. It's easy to be cynical, to assume people are selfish or shallow. But Carnegie's charm wasn't built on skepticism. It was built on believing the best in other 7 before they proved it. When you treat someone as trustworthy, they're more likely to become trustworthy. When you treat someone as interesting, they become more interesting. When you believe in people, they rise. This isn't naivety, it's influence. Step 3. Speak with warmth and conviction. You don't have to have all the right words, but you do need the right tone. Warmth communicates safety. Conviction communicates clarity. Together, they create gravity. People feel pulled toward what you say, not pushed. If you speak with fear, people retreat. If you speak with certainty and care, they follow. Think of leaders you admire. Chances are, they didn't just talk. They made people feel. That's what charm ice a feeling we associate with a person's presence. Step 4. Make eye contact with purpose. Not the kind that intimidates, but the kind that says, you're the only person in the room right now. In a distracted world, focus is a form of affection. And when you offer it generously, people remember. Step 5. Be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Don't just reflect the energy in the room, set it. Be the one who stays calm when others panic. Be the one who brings laughter when things get tense. Be the one who refuses to gossip, who doesn't need to prove, who lifts rather than critiques. That's how charm becomes leadership. It stabilizes, it centers, it inspires. But none of this happens overnight. Carnegie's charm came from habits. Daily practices of seeing, appreciating, encouraging. He didn't wait for moments to be special. He made them special by how he showed up. You can do that too. You can walk into any room and decide to be the one who listens deeper, who smiles first, who remembers names, who asks how someone's really doing and then pauses long enough to hear the truth. You don't need permission to be that person. And you don't need perfection either. You just need intention, a decision to make your presence a gift, not a performance. Charm that lasts isn't loud. It's felt in the silence after someone speaks, when they realize they really heard me. It's felt in the glance across the room that says, you've got this. It's felt in the memory of a conversation that made someone feel more like themselves. So make that your legacy. Let your charm be your signature not because you demanded attention, but because you gave it so generously, people couldn't help but give it back. And in a noisy world, that kind of charm, that's not just powerful. That's unforgettable. True charisma doesn't just change conversations. It changes lives. It opens doors you never knew existed. It earns trust before credentials are shown. It draws allies when you don't even ask. Because when you become the kind of person people want to be around, you also become the kind of person people want to follow, work with, and believe in. Carnegie's timeless insight wasn't just about improving social skill set. It was about transforming who you are so that your influence grows not from what you say, but from what people feel in your presence. Now, let's anchor everything into a future you can shape starting today. Begin by leading without a title. You don't need a promotion to practice leadership. You don't need an audience to practice influence. Every conversation is your training ground. Every encounter is a chance to refine the kind of presence you bring into the world. Make your presence a source of confidence note because you demand respect, but because you offer it first. Practice charm in the invisible moments. What do you do when no one's watching? When the room is quiet? When the meeting's over? When the stage is empty? That's where real charm is forged. Not in the applause, but in the aftermath. It's in the email you send just to encourage someone. It's in the patience you show when others are short-tempered. It's in remembering the little things' names, birthdays, dreams that others forget. Over time, these moments compound. They build trust that no title can command. Resist the urge to impress, choose to connect. Impressing people is exhausting. Connecting with them is energizing. One is a performance, the other is a relationship, and it's connection that sustains charm over decades. People don't remember exactly what you said. They remember how you made them feel. So leave them feeling seen, heard, valued. That's the legacy of charm. Refuse to outsource your worth. You are not waiting for someone else to validate your charisma. You are not chasing charm as if it lives in someone else's perception of you. You are building it, brick by brick, with every choice you make. Every time you respond with grace instead of ego. Every time you lift someone up instead of tearing them down. Every time you take the risk to be warm, kind, real, especially when it's easier to be distant. Those moments build your charm. They become your character. They ground it in humility. Charisma without humility becomes arrogance. Influence without empathy becomes manipulation. The greatest charmers aren't the loudest. They're the ones who leave others better. Not because they want the credit, but because they care. And that's what makes them unforgettable. Now, here's the truth. You already have what it takes. The spark of charm isn't out there. It's already in you. You just need to uncover it, nurture it, let it breathe. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become more of who you really are. Kind, curious, courageous. Every great communicator you admire once started here wondering if they had enough. And every one of them discovered that charm isn't a gift. It's a decision. It's the courage to show up with heart. So show up today not as someone trying to win people over, but as someone willing to give. Smile more than you feel like. Listen longer than is comfortable. Praise more than is expected. And keep practicing, especially on the days you don't feel magnetic. Because charisma is a muscle. And the more you use it, the more it becomes who you are. In a world distracted by ego, your sincerity will shine. In a culture overwhelmed by noise, your calm will cut through. In a generation craving authenticity, your presence will become a magnet. You want to be unforgettable? Be present. Be real. Be kind, especially when it's hardest. That's how charm changes everything. So, if you've ever wondered, do I really have what it takes to influence others? Let me tell you, right here, right now. Yes, you do. And it starts with the next person you meet. Make them feel like they matter. And you'll discover the most powerful truth of all. Charm doesn't make you famous. It makes you unforgettable. If this message inspired you, subscribe to Dale Carnegie Impact, where we explore timeless wisdom and practical steps to transform your life, one powerful conversation at a time. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs it today.